Tom always liked quiet places. That was one reason he had taken the job on Archon 5. The research station sat on the edge of a wide red plain that stretched for miles in every direction. The air was thin, the wind dry, and the nearest human outpost was hundreds of kilometers away. Most people found it lonely. Tom found it peaceful. His station was a cluster of small metal domes connected by short corridors. The largest dome was the lab, where he spent most of his time collecting and studying rock samples. The others held living quarters, storage, and the small power unit that kept everything running. It was a normal morning when things began to change. Tom was outside, wearing his thin breathing mask, chipping at a large red boulder to get a fresh sample. The sun of Archon 5 was brighter than Earth's, casting sharp shadows across the desert. The only sound was the wind brushing across the sand. Then a shadow moved across the ground, different from the others. Tom looked up. At first he thought it was one of the survey drones from the main colony, but drones did not shine like liquid silver in the sunlight. This object was smooth and round with no visible wings or engines. It hovered silently for a moment, then began to descend toward the plain just a few hundred meters from the station. He dropped his hammer and ran back to the station. His training told him to report any unknown craft to Central Command, but there was no time. The object was landing fast. Dust and sand blew outward in all directions as it settled onto the ground. The craft's surface shifted in color, almost like water reflecting light. Tom stood inside the doorway of the station, unsure if he should go closer. Then a seam appeared in the side of the craft, and a section of it opened. A figure stepped out. At first glance, Tom could see it was humanoid, tall and slender, with a smooth silver-blue suit that seemed to blend into her skin. As the figure walked forward, the sunlight revealed more details. The suit was not metal, but a flexible material covered with faint patterns, almost like natural markings. Her face was unlike any human's, yet strangely familiar. High cheekbones, almond-shaped eyes that glowed faintly, and hair that moved slightly as if reacting to the air. She stopped a few meters from him. Her gaze was calm but sharp, as if she was studying every detail about him in a single glance. Tom's heart was pounding. He had never seen an alien before. The colonies on Archon 5 had heard rumors of other civilizations, but no one in his research team had made direct contact. "Identify yourself," Tom said, his voice steady but low. The alien woman tilted her head slightly. Then she spoke in perfect English, though her tone carried an unusual rhythm. "I am Mira. I have traveled far to meet you." Tom blinked. "Me? Why me?" "You are alone here," she said simply, as if that was the only answer required. She took another step closer. The movement was smooth, almost too smooth, like water flowing. Her eyes kept fixed on his. Tom felt a strange mix of caution and curiosity. Every instinct told him this was not a random visit. Mira's gaze drifted to the research station. "This is your place of work?" "Yes," Tom replied. "I study the land here, rocks, soil, weather patterns." She nodded slowly, as if confirming something in her mind. Then she looked back at him. "You will come with me. There is something you must do." Tom stepped back slightly. "I don't know who you are or what you want. I can't just leave my post." "You can," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "And you will, if you wish to understand why I am here." The wind picked up, carrying a thin red haze across the plain. In the distance, the craft behind her shimmered faintly in the sunlight. Tom glanced toward it, then back at her. Something about the way she stood, perfectly balanced and still, made it clear she was not a threat, yet she was also not someone to ignore. "What happens if I say no?" Tom asked carefully. Mira's expression did not change. "Then I leave, and you will spend the rest of your life wondering what would have happened if you had come." The words lingered in the air. Tom's mind raced. His job on Archon 5 was safe and predictable, but also repetitive. Nothing truly exciting ever happened here. This was something different, and possibly dangerous. Still, he could not shake the feeling that she had come for a reason. Finally, Tom gave a small nod. "All right, I'll come." Mira's eyes brightened, just for a moment. She turned and began walking toward the silver craft. Tom followed, his boots crunching on the red sand. As they approached, the surface of the ship seemed to ripple, creating an opening just large enough for them to enter. Inside, the air was cool and clean, with a faint scent he could not place. The walls were smooth and without seams, glowing softly. Mira gestured for him to stand near a small circular platform. "This will be the first step," she said. "The first step to what?" Tom asked. Mira looked at him steadily. "The first step to proving yourself." Before he could respond, the platform beneath him began to rise, carrying him into the heart of the alien craft. His quiet life on Archon 5 had ended, and something entirely new had begun. The platform stopped moving, and Tom stepped off into a wide, circular room. The walls curved upward into a high dome, and soft blue light glowed from hidden lines in the surface. The air felt cooler than outside, almost fresh like a spring morning on Earth. Mira stood near a large structure in the middle of the room. It looked like a tall frame of metal with strange shapes hanging from it, none of which Tom could recognize. Thin wires ran across it like veins, and a steady hum came from deep within. She pointed to the structure. "This is broken. You will repair it." Tom frowned. "I have never seen anything like this before. I do not even know what it does." "That is not the question," Mira replied calmly. "The question is whether you can make it work." Tom walked closer, studying the device. Up close, he could see that some of the wires had been cut, and a few glowing panels had gone dark. The hum was uneven, like a machine struggling to stay alive. He looked at Mira again. "Do you have tools for this?" Her eyes studied him for a moment before she stepped to the side and pressed her hand to the wall. A section slid open, revealing a set of tools unlike any he had ever used. They were sleek, without screws or moving parts, but their shapes hinted at familiar uses: cutting, joining, tightening. Tom picked up one tool that fit comfortably in his hand. As soon as he touched it, a faint light ran along its surface. He glanced at Mira, but she said nothing. He knelt by the base of the device and began examining the damage. Some wires were cut clean, others were melted at the ends as if from heat. The panels seemed to connect in patterns, but he had no diagrams, no instructions. Tom was used to working without much guidance. Life at the station often required improvising, repairs when supplies were delayed. He began by tracing each wire to see where it led. The tool in his hand seemed to respond to his movements, glowing brighter when he found a broken section. The work was slow. The hum of the machine deepened and then weakened again, reminding him that time might be short. He decided to replace the melted section first. Using another tool, he joined the ends, and to his surprise, the tool seemed to fuse the material, without heat or sparks. As he worked, Mira stood silently a few meters away. She did not offer advice or correction. She simply watched him with the same focused expression she had shown when she first appeared. Half an hour passed before Tom began to see progress. One by one, the dark panels started to glow faintly. The hum grew steadier. Sweat ran down his back under his work shirt, but he ignored it. His hands moved faster now that he understood the pattern of the connections. The final section was the most difficult. The wire was hidden deep inside the frame, and the tool he had was too large to reach it easily. He thought about asking Mira for help, but something told him this was part of the test. Instead, he lay on his side, reaching in as far as he could, stretching his fingers until they just touched the broken end. The tool almost slipped from his grip, but he managed to hold it steady. With slow, careful movements, he fused the wire. When it was done, he pulled back and stood up. Every panel on the device now glowed with steady light. The hum had changed into a smooth, even sound. Mira stepped forward and touched the side of the device. A soft pulse of light ran across its surface. She looked at him and nodded once. It works again. Tom took a step back and wiped his hands on his trousers. What does it do? It keeps this ship hidden from unfriendly eyes, Mira said. Without it, we could not travel safely. He stared at her. So if I had failed, you would have been in danger? Yes, she said simply. You have skill with your hands, and you think quickly. That is the first thing I wish to know. Tom felt a strange mix of pride and unease. He had repaired machines before, but never anything that might be protecting an alien ship. Mira walked toward the wall, and the opening that had held the tools closed again. You will follow me now. They stepped into a narrow corridor that sloped gently downward. The walls here were darker, and small patterns of light moved along them like flowing water. Tom's footsteps made no sound. The corridor opened into another room, smaller and dimly lit. In the center stood a table with a map projected above it. The map showed the planet's surface dotted with glowing markers. One marker blinked red near the position of his research station. Mira pointed at the red marker. Others may come here. They will not be friendly to me or to you. This ship must move soon, but before it does, I need to be sure of you, Tom frowned. Sure of me for what? To stand with me in what is coming, she said. Her tone was calm, but there was weight behind the words. Tom looked at the map again. The blinking red light seemed almost alive, pulsing like a warning. Mira turned to him. You have passed the first test. There will be more. Each one will show me who you are. Tom felt the knot in his stomach tighten. He had no idea what the next test would be, but he knew one thing. He was already far from the safety of his old routine, and there was no going back now. The next morning on Archon 5 began with a thin red haze covering the horizon. Tom had slept lightly inside the alien ship, his mind still filled with questions. Mira had not spoken much after the first test. She only said there was another task, waiting for him, and that they would leave at sunrise. When the first light touched the red plains, Mira stood by the ship's open ramp with a small pack on her back. She handed Tom a breathing mask and a set of goggles. We go to the signal. Tower, she said. It is far, and the way will not be easy. Tom adjusted the mask over his face. What is at the tower? Something important, she replied. You will see. The ship's ramp closed behind them as they stepped onto the sand. Mira carried herself with calm confidence, walking at a steady pace. Tom followed, his boots sinking slightly into the soft ground. The air outside was dry, but the mask made breathing easier. At first, the land was flat and open, with only a few tall rock pillars breaking the view. But after an hour, the wind began to pick up. Fine grains of sand whipped around their legs, and the haze on the horizon grew darker. Mira stopped and looked toward the sky. A storm is coming sooner than I thought, she said. We must move faster. Tom knew what a desert storm on Archon 5 could do. He had seen one from the safety of the station once, walls of red sand moving so thick that you could not see your own hands. The wind could strip paint from metal and bury equipment in minutes. They quickened their pace. The wind howled louder, and the sky turned a deep orange. Sand began to bite against Tom's exposed skin. His goggles kept his eyes clear, but every step became harder. Soon the world around them was only shifting red. The landmarks were gone. Tom could barely see Mira ahead of him. She did not slow down or look back, but her movements stayed sure and steady. After another half hour, the storm became worse. The wind was so strong that Tom had to lean forward to keep moving. His legs ached, and every breath through the mask felt heavy. Then he saw Mira stop. She pointed to a dark shape ahead. There, she called over the wind. Through the haze, Tom saw the outline of a low ridge. They pushed toward it, climbing the slope until they reached a shallow cave at the top. The inside was just deep enough to block most of the wind. Tom sank to the ground, pulling off his goggles. "We cannot keep going in this," he said. Mira sat beside him, her eyes calm. "We will wait until the wind lessens. Then we move again. The eye." Storm roared outside, shaking loose small stones from the cave walls. For a while they stayed silent. Then Mira spoke. "This journey is also a test," she said. "Not of your skill with machines, but of your strength and patience." Tom gave a short laugh. "You could have just asked if I had those." "I do not ask," she said. "I see." They waited for almost an hour. The noise of the wind was constant, but slowly the brightness of the sand outside began to fade. Mira stood and looked at the sky. "It is enough. We go now." They stepped back into the open. The air was still heavy with dust, but the wind had dropped to a level they could manage. The ground ahead sloped downward into a narrow canyon. The walls of the canyon rose high on both sides, offering shelter from the remaining gusts. As they moved through the canyon, Tom began to notice marks along the stone walls. They looked like carved symbols, weathered by time but still visible. "What are these?" Tom asked. Mira touched one of the symbols with her gloved hand. "They are older than my people's first ships. The tower was built by those who came before us." "Who were they?" "No one knows," Mira said. "But the tower still works. It speaks across the sky. That is why we must reach it." They walked for another hour until the canyon opened onto a wide plain. In the distance, a tall, thin structure rose into the sky. Its surface was dark and smooth, and even from far away, Tom could see faint lines of light running along it. "That is it," Mira said. The sight gave Tom a burst of energy. They moved quickly across the plain, stepping over cracks in the ground where the sand had shifted. But as they neared the base of the tower, the wind began to rise again, this time swirling in sharp bursts. Mira reached the tower first. She placed her hand against its surface, and a section slid open to reveal a narrow entrance. "Inside," she said. Tom followed her in. The air inside was still and cooler than outside. The walls glowed faintly, lighting a spiral staircase that wound upward. They climbed in silence. The steps were narrow, and Tom's legs burned from the steady climb. Halfway up, a deep vibration ran through the tower, making the walls tremble. "What was that?" Tom asked. Mira did not answer at first. Then she said, "Something has noticed the tower is active. We may have little time." At the top, they reached a small chamber filled with control panels. The center of the room held a tall column of light that pulsed slowly. Mira moved to the panels and began pressing her hands against them. Symbols appeared in the air, changing and shifting. Tom stood near the doorway, looking out at the storm, now closing in again. "What do you need me to do?" "Keep watch," Mira said. "If anything comes, you must tell me at once." Tom scanned the plain below. Through the blowing sand, he thought he saw a dark shape moving in the distance. It was hard to tell if it was a rock or something else. "Mira," he called, "I think we have company." She looked up, her eyes narrowing. "Then I must work faster." The hum of the tower grew louder as she continued. The column of light in the center brightened until it filled the room with a soft glow. Tom's gaze stayed fixed on the moving shape outside. It was closer now, and he could see that it was not a rock. It was another craft, dark and angular, cutting through the storm straight toward the tower. "Mira," he said again, "they are almost here." She turned to him, her voice firm. "Then we will see if you are ready for the next test." The hum of the tower filled the chamber as the column of light grew brighter. Outside, the dark craft was closing in through the storm. Tom's heart beat faster. He did not know who was in that ship, but Mira's warning made it clear they were not friendly. Mira worked quickly at the control panels. Strange symbols shifted in the air before her hands, and the glow in the room deepened. She did not look up as she spoke. "Tom, I need you to do something dangerous." Tom turned to her. "Dangerous in what way?" Her eyes met his for a moment. "If you trust me, you will do it without more questions." Tom hesitated. This was not the first strange task she had given him, but the storm, the enemy craft, and the high tower made this one feel different. Still, something in her voice told him she was serious. "What do I have to do?" he asked. She pointed to a narrow ledge that circled the outside of the tower just below their chamber. "There is a crystal receiver on the outer wall. It is damaged. Without it, the signal will not reach my people. You must climb out and replace it." Tom stepped to the open doorway and looked down. The ledge was only wide enough for 1 foot at a time. The wind from the storm whipped against the tower, and the ground far below was nothing but shifting red sand. "I am not afraid of heights," Tom said, "but this is not a good time for climbing." "It is the only time," Mira replied. She handed him a small object no bigger than his palm. It was smooth and clear, with light swirling inside like moving water. "Place this into the receiver slot. It will lock itself. Do not drop it." Tom took the crystal, feeling its weight. He slipped it into the pocket of his jacket and tightened the strap of his breathing mask. The wind roared outside, but he nodded. "All right, I will do it." Mira stepped close and placed her hand briefly on his shoulder. "You have my trust. Now give me yours." Tom climbed out onto the ledge. The wind hit him like a wall, nearly pushing him back into the chamber. He pressed himself close to the tower's surface and moved slowly, 1 foot after the other. The stone felt cold under his gloves. Every few steps, the gusts made him stop and brace himself. The receiver was about 20 meters away. It jutted. Out from the tower, a small metal dish cracked along one side. Tom reached it and crouched low. He pulled the crystal from his pocket and slid it toward the slot. The moment the crystal touched the surface, the crack in the dish began to seal, glowing with the same swirling light. A deep vibration ran through the tower, and the column of light inside grew even brighter. From the corner of his eye, Tom saw movement in the storm. The dark craft had landed at the base of the tower. 3 figures in black suits were moving toward the entrance. "Mira," Tom called, his voice raised against the wind. "You have visitors." "I see them," she replied from inside. "Come, back quickly." Tom turned and began making his way back along the ledge. The wind seemed stronger now, pulling at his legs. Halfway back, a sudden gust made him lose his balance. His foot slipped, and for a moment he dangled over the edge, gripping the stone with one hand. The ground below seemed impossibly far away. Grit stung his face as the wind screamed around him. His muscles burned, but he pulled himself back onto the ledge. He stayed still for a moment, breathing hard before forcing himself to move again. When he reached the chamber, Mira was waiting at the doorway. She pulled him inside and sealed the opening with a wave of her hand. The hum of the tower had changed into a deep, steady tone. "You did well," she said. "The signal is strong now." Tom tried to catch his breath. "What about the ones at the bottom?" Mira stepped to the center of the chamber and touched the column of light. It shifted, and the walls around them displayed an image of the figures below. They were trying to force the tower's entrance but made no progress. "They will not get inside," she said. "The tower is not built for them." Tom looked at her carefully. "You said this was a test. Was it just about the crystal?" "It was about trust," she answered. "I needed to know if you would follow my lead even when the risk was high." "You did." He glanced again at the image of the strangers below. "And now?" "Now we wait for my people to answer the signal," she said. "When they arrive, we will leave this place." The storm outside began to fade, and the orange light from the sun filtered into the chamber. Tom stood by the window, looking down at the plain. The figures in black had returned to their craft, which lifted off and vanished into the distance. Mira turned to him. You have faced skill, strength, and trust. There is one more test before I decide what comes next. Tom gave a small nod. Then I guess I will be ready. Her eyes studied him for a moment longer, as if weighing something in her mind. Then she returned her focus to the glowing panels. The hum of the tower filled the silence, and somewhere beyond the sky, a message was racing toward an unknown world. The tower stood quiet now, its light steady and calm. Outside, the red plains stretched far, peaceful once more after the storm. Tom sat on a low bench in the chamber, his hands folded in his lap. Mira was near the glowing panels, her face soft, with thought. For the first time since she arrived, Mira spoke without hurry. You have done more than I expected. Tom looked up, surprised. I did what I could, but I still don't understand why you brought me here. She turned to face him, her eyes steady and kind. There is a reason I chose you. Tom leaned forward, waiting. My people have a tradition, Mira began. When one of us seeks a companion, a mate, they must be tested, not only for skill or courage, but for the heart. To share life with another means trust beyond words. Tom's brow furrowed. Why me? I am just a man living on a remote planet. You are more than that, Mira said. You showed patience when the storm came. You showed skill with my technology. You showed trust when you climbed the ledge. These are not small things. He felt warmth rise in his chest, but also confusion. Why does this matter to you? Why does your tradition reach across the stars? Mira looked toward the window. The red desert seemed endless. Because my world is far, and my people are fewer than before. We need strength and new bonds to survive. Tom sat quietly. He thought about his simple life, the days spent alone with rocks and sand. The idea of joining a people so different from his own was both frightening and exciting. Mira continued softly. When I first saw you, I did not expect you to pass the tests. Many have failed before. Failed how? Tom asked. By fear, by doubt, by refusing to trust. He met her gaze. And I passed because you chose to face the unknown. You stepped beyond your comfort and trusted me. Tom felt the weight of her words. He looked down at his hands, feeling the rough skin and small scars. These hands had fixed machines, survived storms, and now perhaps held the future. Mira moved closer. There is one more thing you must know. He looked up quickly. What is it? My people do not take mates lightly. It is a bond of deep meaning. When I say I have chosen you, it is not a request. Tom swallowed hard. You have chosen me? She nodded. Yes. You have passed the tests and my heart. I want you to come with me, not just as a companion, but as my mate. The words hung in the air like a bright star. Tom's mind raced. He thought of his life, the lonely days, the endless red plains. He thought of Mira, her calm strength, her mysterious presence. I am honored, he said finally. But this is a choice that changes everything. It does, Mira agreed. But it also offers a new path, one filled with hope and partnership. Tom looked out the window again. The desert seemed smaller now, as if the universe had grown larger. What will happen if I say yes? You will join my people. You will learn new ways and share your own. Together, we will face the future. And if I say no? Mira's face was gentle but firm. Then I will leave, and you will live with the question of what might have been. Tom felt the silence settle between them. He realized this was more than a test of skill or courage. It was a test of his heart. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he reached out and took Mira's hand. "I want to try," he said. "I want to see what comes next." Mira smiled, a light shining in her eyes. "Then our journey truly begins." Outside, the tower. The red sun dipped lower, painting the sky with warm colors. Inside, two beings from different worlds found a connection that would change them both forever. The light in the tower dimmed as the twin moons of Archon 5 rose into the sky. Tom stood beside Mira near the glowing column in the chamber. The soft blue light reflected on their faces, casting gentle shadows. Tom's heart was heavy with thoughts. He had never imagined his life would change so much in so little time. The quiet days at the research station felt like a distant memory. Now, he stood on the edge of a future he did not fully understand. Mira looked at him with calm eyes. "You have made a brave choice," she said softly. "To trust me was the first step. Now you must understand what it means." Tom swallowed and nodded. "I want to understand." She moved closer and reached for his hand. "When I said I chose you as my mate, it was more than words. It is a bond that ties two souls. It is not just for companionship, but for life." Tom looked into her eyes, searching for answers. "What does the bond do?" "It connects us in many ways," Mira explained. "Our thoughts, our feelings, even our strength. When bonded, we share more than words can say. It is a promise to face all challenges together." Tom felt a warmth in his chest. The idea of such a deep connection was new and strange, but it also felt right. "Will it change me?" "In time, yes," Mira said. "You will learn things you never knew. Your mind and body will grow stronger. You will see the universe through new eyes." Tom looked down at his hands. They were the hands of a simple man, but soon they might hold power he had never dreamed of. Mira's voice was gentle as she continued. "The bond is not only a gift, but a responsibility. You will be part of my people and their future." He nodded slowly. "I want to be ready," Mira smiled. "There is a ceremony for the bond. It will take place soon. Until then, you will rest and prepare." Tom felt the weight of what was coming. The ceremony was a step he could not take back from. He looked around the chamber and then back at Mira. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for trusting me." "And thank you," Mira replied, "for being willing." The hours passed, and the tower grew quiet. Tom sat by the window watching. The twin moons move across the dark sky. He thought of the life he had left behind and the journey ahead. In the stillness, a feeling of hope filled him. He was no longer alone on Archon 5. He had Mira, and maybe something more. The twin moons of Archon 5 hung low in the night sky, casting silver light over the red desert below. Tom stood on the small balcony of the tower, his hands resting on the cool metal railing. The air was still and quiet. Inside, Mira prepared for the bond ceremony, but Tom's mind was filled with many thoughts. He thought about the long journey that had brought him here. From his quiet life alone on the Red Plains to the strange tests and dangers he had faced with Mira. The strange silver ship, the storm, the climb on the ledge, and now this moment. Mira joined him on the balcony, her steps soft and steady. She looked at him with a gentle smile. "The time has come," she said. Tom nodded. "I know." They stood side by side, looking out at the stars. The sky was clear, and the stars sparkled like distant fires. The universe felt vast and full of mystery. Mira broke the silence. "This choice is yours alone. No matter what you decide, I will respect it." Tom looked at her, feeling the weight of her words. "What happens if I say no?" She sighed softly. "Then I will return to my people. Our paths will part here." He nodded slowly. The idea of saying no was difficult. He had grown to trust her, even care for her. But the future was unknown. "What if I say yes?" Tom asked. "You will join me. You will become part of my world. It will not be easy, but it will be full of hope." Tom took a deep breath. He thought of the lonely days at the station, the endless red sand, and the quiet nights. He thought of Mira's calm strength and the bond that might change both of their lives. "I want to say yes," he said finally. Mira reached out and took his hand. The touch was warm and steady. "Then we begin," she said. They returned to the chamber, where soft lights glowed and the air felt charged with energy. Mira began the ceremony with a quiet song, her voice low and clear. The walls around them shimmered as the bond was formed. Tom felt a strange warmth spreading through his body. It was not only physical, but deeper, as if his thoughts and feelings were reaching out to Mira's. The connection was gentle but strong. He looked into her eyes and saw a future filled with promise. When the ceremony ended, Tom felt changed. Not just in body, but in spirit. The bond was a new beginning. Mira smiled and said, "Welcome to my people, Tom." Outside, the first light of dawn touched the horizon. The red plains of Archon 5 seemed brighter, full of new possibilities. Tom and Mira stood together, ready to face whatever the stars would bring.